Then let's move forward with the next domain, which is development approach and lifecycle performance domain. What is the development approach? Yes, the way the project is developed, which we have discussed before: predictive, adaptive, agile, incremental, iterations, waterfall, and life cycle phases of the project. We are talking about the life cycle of the project, or the project management life cycle when we are talking about process. The development approach and life cycle domain addresses the activities, the functions associated with the development approaches. Cadence, harmonized melody for managing the project. Something like from music, I think. Anyhow, and life cycle phases for the project that you are doing. The effective execution of this one, if you are managing this domain very well, will give you those desired outcomes. Development approaches consistent to the project deliverables that will give you the ability to deliver the outcomes. Project life cycle consisting of phases connecting delivery of business and stakeholder value from the beginning to the end of a project life cycle consisting of phases that facilitate the delivery, cadence, and development approach required to produce the deliverables. Establishing the development approach, delivery, cadence, project life cycle needed to optimize the outcomes. The vocabs that we will have in this domain: deliverable, the outputs that you are delivering. If combined with value, it will be outcomes, and this should be agreed upon before the start of the project if you are in the predictive life cycle, and while doing the project if you are in an adaptive life cycle. Development approach, the method used to create and develop those deliverables. And cadence, the rhythm of activities. It's good that we have the definition. The rhythm of activities conducted throughout the project. And project phase, you know what's a project phase, but it's a collection of logically related project activities or related tasks that need to be achieved at certain, let's say, duration or bulk of time or milestone. Project life cycle, series of phases that the project phases go through. And by the way, if you understand the things, those things, you don't spend time on that. You don't need to keep in mind or to memorize those things. If you understand them, just move forward. Development, cadence, and life cycle relationship. What's the relationship that we are talking about? The type of project delivery determines how it can be developed. It's logic. The type of deliverables and development approach definitely will be affecting the number and the rhythm for the project. The deliverable approach and the desired delivery cadence determine the project life cycle and its phases, which is already discussed before many times, that it's about how you tailor things, right? It's all related to tailoring. And by the way, keep in mind that everything in this edition is related to tailoring. What's delivery cadence? We have mentioned that it's the rhythm that where you are using and how you performing the delivery of your products. Delivery cadence refers to the timing and frequency of project deliverables. For a construction project, you're aware of having certain stages because it's predictive. For IT project, it will be iterations and incremental, and the duration will be defined or decided based on the user stories. User stories in the adaptive environment is similar to the products or deliverables in the predictive environment. So it's something only renamed. User story, products or deliverables, but that's in the adaptive environment, okay? Projects can have a single delivery or multiple deliveries or periodic deliveries. Either you just submit once, the whole thing, despite the fact that you have phases, it's the predictive environment. Multiple deliverables about increments and iterations. Periodic deliverables might be of a hybrid system. Here you have examples. When you go through those slides, you have examples of each one. Okay, development approach. A development approach, the means used to create or evolve the project, products, services, or result during project lifecycle. I will make it for you clear. Three commonly environments which I have just mentioned: predictive, or you can name it waterfall, or traditional management. Hybrid, mix of both. Adaptive, when you go more agile, iterations, or incremental. We have mentioned that many times through the course, and I'm focusing on that because your exam is, I believe, 90% built on the adaptive and hybrid. Okay? And somewhere in the course later on you will find that we are saying that even construction project is being done predictively, but you are having the sense of having adaptive and incremental deliveries. Those are the relationship between development approaches. Development approach, you have predictive and you have adaptive. The more you go adaptive, increasingly you are submitting either iterations or increments. And we mentioned what are the differences between increments and iterations before, right? Predictive approach, useful when products, requirements, deliverables, goals, objectives can be defined or collected at the beginning of the project before you start. So this will help you in planning upfront, which also named waterfall approach, and may be used significant investment when there is significant investment involved and a high level of risk. So you don't want to waste this investment. You need to know the scope upfront. You need to plan upfront. So you plan also for risk responses upfront. Predictive approach, the scope, schedule, cost, resource needs, risks can be well defined early phases before you start, or in the early phases, in the initiation phases of your project, and they are relatively stable. That doesn't mean that there is no changes at all in the predictive life cycle. In construction projects, we are getting some changes, but there is a high resistance or reluctance to change, right? Always project team to reduce the level of uncertainty by investigating on risks, communicating with stakeholders, and this is an interaction with stakeholder domain, by the way, and do much of the planning upfront. So this is another interaction with the planning performance domain. May use proof of concept developments to explore options. So we simulate things before starting doing the project, but the majority of the project work follows the plans. We have planned, we have baselines, we are comparing towards those baselines. And many times projects that use this approach have templates like operation process assets ready for you to use to complete your project. Adaptive, it's into circular management approach or life cycle approach, and it's useful when requirements are not clear from the beginning. High level of uncertainty, we don't know what exactly required for this project, and requirements evolve as we go through the project. So the client start perceiving the understanding his project and start defining new requirements as we move on for a project, and those things are highly changing. And we mentioned that this is change-driven life cycle, right? Useful when requirements are high certainty, then clear vision established at the start of the project. You need a vision, even if you don't know the exact requirements for your project, but you have a certain goal and you have a certain vision for the project to move forward. And initially, you start knowing the requirements, and as you move on, you start change things, develop things, improve those requirements, or maybe remove things and add other things to the requirements. And definitely mentioned again many times using iterative and incremental approaches. The purpose, do you remember what the purpose of having the adaptive approach, or the benefit of having the adaptive? You can adapt to the change that's happening, but the benefit or the ultimate benefit of adaptive, that you're submitting incrementally. When you submit an increment, it's fully functional, usable, and can be released to the customers. Then you can get the return on investment on increments. You don't stay until the end of the project until you start getting benefits. No, you can start getting from early stages by submitting releases or submitting increments. If you recall the example of the website that we have discussed before, the website, you can start releasing pages. The first page for example, for mobile back covers. The next month, you initiate the next page for the flip covers. The next month for accessories, the next month for mobile phones, the next month for tablets. So you don't wait until you build the whole website. You released it on fully functional increments, so you start getting customers and payments from customers. It's not easy to manage for construction, but if you have a huge project or a mega project, it's split into zones and buildings. You start submitting buildings. Like for example, for the MENA district beside the MIA Museum, they have opened the Books Park, but still the project is working. So people can go there, buy food, adi, and you can go by car. And now they have started opening the retails for rental. The retail shops in the MENA district still being built, but people started renting those retail shops. So they have opened on increments, but it's not much common in construction, by the way. It's more into such like website design, app design, IT, those creative fields. Type agile approaches can be considered adaptive, which is highly adaptive environments. Some agile approaches entails iterations that are 1 to 2 weeks. This is very important, guys, that you will be getting questions on calculating maybe the duration of the project, or you will be getting questions on how long you still need to finish the project. This depends on how you understand iterations on adaptive environments. Iterations that are 1 to 2 weeks, because he will be giving you that you will have, for example, 5 iterations, then you need 10 weeks. Usually they go between 2 and 4 weeks for the iterations. The project team is very engaged with the planning. How come? We have all their inputs while planning the project. In adaptive environments, we don't have that like project manager and this is the post we are planning, everybody will follow. No, because the requirements are known, right? They are unknown, and you still need to know those requirements from your client. Then you will have a product owner. This product owner will be facilitating the categorizing or the prioritizing of the user story. Okay, this is what's mentioned here. The project team will determine the scope they can achieve for each sprint or for each iteration, prioritized from the backlog by the product manager after the product owner, after he meets the stakeholders and the clients and the customers and the end users, based on a prioritized estimated work involved and work collaboratively throughout the iteration to develop that your own. It's an example for the story, so you can read this if you want to understand how it goes. Then you can refer to this one. We have mentioned the predictive, we know now the adaptive, then we have a third product or project development approach, which is hybrid. Whenever you see this vocab, it means a mix between all the types or part of the types or two of the types. Then it's a combination of adaptive and predictive approaches of project management. I'm not going to cover this because it's similar to what we have mentioned, but it's a mix, and then the percentage of how much you are taking from here or there depends on the type and the nature of the project. Incremental, every time you submit an increment, it's fully functioning as a stand-alone part of the project. Iterations, every time you build up on the previous one, but at the end you are submitting the fully functioning project. Yeah, and this definitely, what happens on this slide is your sole responsibility. I'm not going through this slide, there is too many information, but this is an example. You can go through it if you want to have more insights on that. If you understand the thing, khalas, don't go through this slide. Okay. Consideration for selecting a certain development based on whatever situations or factors. So these are the factors or situations affecting if you are selecting predictive or adaptive or hybrid or whatever development approach. Deal? And I'm trying to make points clear for you before diving into those. The several factors influence the selection method. It's clear. Anything you need to select, there are some factors you need to establish, and they can divide it into either product, service, result, project, organization. Those are the things that you can categorize things below. Then variables associated with the nature of the product or service or result are degree of innovation, on how much we need to be innovative, requirements certainty, if you know the requirements or not, then you can decide if you are going with adaptive or predictive. If you know the requirements, I'm going with predictive. If I don't know the requirements, then I'm going with adaptive. Scope stability, if the scope is stable, like I'm building a tower, then it's predictive. If I'm doing a website for a certain new company who doesn't know what is the vision or the mission, then it is adaptive or agile. If you are doing the vaccine management, the vaccine project management, it's uncertain, 100% uncertain project, right? Then I'm going with agile and adaptive. I'm not going with predictive. Ease of change. Are you flexible to change? If yes, adaptive. If no, predictive, right? Delivery options. Are you delivering once, a single delivery? Predictive. Are you delivering periodically or you are delivering on continuous deliverables? Then you are going agile and adaptive. Huh? Great. Risk. If there is a high risk involved, then you are going with predictive. You need to collect requirements and you need to plan upfront and you need to try to figure against baselines. Low uncertainty low risk, you will go with what? You might be going with adaptive because there is low risk of the changes. You are open to changes and there is low risk of changes and you can go with high degree of innovation, then you are going with adaptive. So the situation will help you deciding which development approach. Safety requirements and regulations will help you also to decide or will be affecting your decision. I'm not going to cover each and every single one. You can read them for understanding, but I think it's clear, right? Yeah. And degree of innovation, you can know that if there is a requirement for high innovation, then you need to go with adaptive. So you can submit on iterations, getting feedbacks early from stakeholders in order to develop, and you can manage your team in sprint views and retrospective, and move forward, okay? Then I'm not going to cover them separately. You can read them, guys. It's very clear and very easy. Okay. Hi, this is very important because I did not cover. I just mentioned that there is regulations affecting your project. If there are high regulation or significant regulatory oversight the projects, then you need to go with predictive. Because there are regulations helping you to decide what you are doing, why you are doing that, and how you are doing that. But it's theory as well, that if you are working in an adaptive environment, you need very high project stakeholder engagement, management techniques, and follow-up and observation, because their input is the fuel for your journey. Without having their feedback on the requirements, their updates on the requirements, and you update the requirements in order to update the backlog, in order to be able to select from the user stories, then you cannot move forward, or you might be moving forward towards something wrong, in the wrong direction. Mentioning the product owner play a substantial role in establishing and prioritizing work, and that's what I was explaining in the whiteboard, right? If schedule certains, if there is a need to deliver something early, this is also a good, what I mentioned there. If you need to get benefits early in the project, then if you can deliver that on increments, it will be your best choice to go with adaptive. So you release the first increment fully functioning, getting back returns to you and benefits to you, it will be perfect, huh? Go through them please while studying, but I have explained them all. Okay.